Well, I'm delighted I've got two fantastic guests to talk about this. First up, I'm going to be talking to Chris Mcgovern, who is the chairman of the Campaign for Real Education, former head teacher, someone who really understands traditional, solid teaching. Chris, a very good evening to you. Thanks for joining me on GB News. Well, you just heard my intro there, Chris. I mean, these are astonishing and, frankly, I think potentially at best worrying, at worst terrifying times as to what's going on in our schools. What were your thoughts, firstly, Chris, on seeing children being used in those protests at the back end of last week?
My thoughts, Richard, were that around the world there are countries, wars taking place where there are child soldiers. I didn't think we'd see child soldiers on our streets in London and elsewhere. Effectively, they've been recruited to fight the battle. We have battles on our streets, and now we have children recruited to fight them. It's completely wrong, and it's a reflection of what's been going on in our schools for 30, 40 years. Look, I taught for 35 years. I recall back in the late 80s, children getting a new exam then. It was called the GCSE. It's common now. And in the model questions, the children were being asked to imagine they were members of the PLO and to take the position of the PLO and to explain why they'd blown up an Israeli aircraft. And, you know, that's been going on a lot recently. Even the last few years, we've seen other examples of that. We've seen in the last week, in fact, on the web, where the Times Educational Supplement has a model lesson, which compares Hamas to the RAF. Both are listed as terrorist organisations.
And then, Chris, we've also just seen a new report and polling by the think tank Policy Exchange saying that currently teachers are self-censoring lessons for fear of offending Muslim pupils. Now, Muslim pupils represent about 1 in 10 of our children in schools. The Muslim population is about just under 7% across England and Wales. I think that's the appropriate number. I mean, this must be pretty shocking to you, the fact that teachers are now worried about causing offence. And actually, I think half of teachers believe their physical safety would be put at risk if they essentially offended certain Muslim pupils.
Yeah, this is an awful state of affairs. As a head teacher, I used to tell the pupils that they need to treat other children as they want to be treated. That's what you need, and that's all you need. What's been taking place, and we've seen the school in Batley. Look, I have some sympathy for the parents. They have the right to be upset, and they feel they've been insulted, but they don't have the right to cause a teacher to basically disappear and find a new identity. We have a situation where politics are in schools even more than you're saying, Richard. You stated the case very strongly. I know what schools are like. I know what's going on. And a few years ago, the police went into a school in Bethnal Green where those 3 girls disappeared, went off to Syria, became a big case. The police went into the school and they wanted to see whether there was any promotion of terrorism. What they found was no promotion of terrorism. What they found was that the school was actually teaching the children both points of view. So they were taught the point of view of George Bush when the 9/11 took place, and they were then taught the point of view of Osama bin Laden. They're equal but different. That's all. And that's
Chris, how does it work out where you've got a mixed school with Muslim children, with Christian children, with Jewish children, and you've got parents, possibly with the sort of the implicit encouragement, possibly of some teachers, where the Muslim children are basically being encouraged to go on protest? I mean, that's a recipe for disaster, isn't it?
It's a recipe for disaster, because what's happening is a total breakdown and teachers are taking sides. On the whole, you know, teachers tend to be on the left. I think 1 or 2 surveys we've seen recently have shown that hardly any teachers will support the Tory party. In fact, a few years ago at the Labour Party conference, one of the teaching spokesmen there said to the conference that education in Britain is failing as long as a single pupil leaves school and votes Tory. That's where we are. It's highly politicised, the classroom, and the content is highly politicised, and the selection of content.
It should, Chris, it should be about the quality of the teaching, not bringing in politics into our schools. I think it's the wrong way to go. Chris, thank you so much. I'm quite sure we'll be coming back to this. I am really, really anxious about it. I think this is just potentially the beginning, and we have to talk about it. We have to be rational about it and look at all sides. And that's why I'm so delighted now to be joined down the line also by Ismail Lee South, who's the director of the Salam Project and Cultural Youth Work consultant. Ismail, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you just heard that previous discussion with Chris
I did.
Mcgovern.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
And look, I was very concerned, to be honest, Ismail, last week to see children being used in sort of political protest. Are you concerned about that, or do you think that's acceptable in today's world?
I agree. I don't agree, because what it is, as a youth worker, I like to encourage our young people, if they have political grievances, i.e. with foreign policy or with current policies, to utilize the democratic system that we have here in the UK, which is one of the best, whereby to write to your local MP, organise petitions, peaceful campaigns, and non-violent marches. Minus the
even in school time, Ismail.
Sensationalism. No, for example, let me give an example. If during school people are very incensed about a topic, what I encourage young people to do is during their break times or during a free lesson to organize a peaceful protest. And this could be about any topic, as long as it's done with and done in conjunction with the teachers and with the head of years. So as long as it's promoting peaceful protest, there's no issue.
Okay, so what do you think about those children who left school, they left the classroom, and they were heading towards a local MP's office, chanting what essentially is a genocidal, anti-Semitic song?
Well, personally speaking, I never hear that report, so I can't comment on what I never hear. But if someone did do that, that is totally wrong. But as you know, as a person who works in the media, this happens in all walks of life. The persons show who you're covering, I've seen it when he's been walking in the middle of the street and someone attacked him with an egg, which is totally inappropriate and unacceptable behavior. This happens in all walks of life and in all schools of thought, of political thought.
And that, Ismail, you see, this report from Policy Exchange, where you've now got essentially about 20% of teachers are self-censoring their lessons, and 50% of teachers are worried about their own safety if they cause offence.
With all due respect, that think tank, they're known to have political grievances, political skewed leanings, and where's their sample? As someone who works in schools, right, with all due respect, a lot of these think tanks that we hear about today are incompetent, verbal masturbators, and are totally incompetent on reality and just stand by Google and speak to one or two people over the phone. Most of them are
look, in fairness to them, they're not here to defend them. They had about 1,100 teachers, so it was a decent-sized poll, I think, Ismail.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Okay. For argument's sake, yes. All right. Yes, this reality does exist. But we have to say, on the whole, the majority of teachers in the UK do a great job in engaging young people within different religious ideologies and understandings, because Britain, whether we like it or not, is a multicultural society. And many teachers, because that's the job that I do, I work in many schools, pupil units, colleges and universities around London, Birmingham, Manchester. So I work in the schools, okay? And the majority of the 95 to 99% of the teachers do a great job in navigating, teaching religious issues in multicultural settings. But
Ismail, it's not good if they're fearful. I guess that's the point, isn't it? Ismail, thank you so much indeed.
No, but you said 20%. You said there's 20%.
No, I said about 50% in this poll are fearful for their safety. 20% are essentially self-censoring. But 50%, 1 in 2, are fearful.
But we have people who are fearful of speaking about political issues, about Brexit. We have people who are fearful about speaking about animal rights. We have people who are fearful speaking about supporting a particular football team. So
but that's adult life. It shouldn't be. Surely it shouldn't be in schools with teachers. Ismail, time is against us. I'm going to get you back in because we've got lots to talk about all of these issues and related. Thank you so much, Ismail, for being with me there this evening. I do hope some of you weren't offended by a little bit of fruity language there. I'm sorry about that.